Okay, so now is the time to start once again with our conversation with our eminent speakers onto the next panel, why a stronger technology game plan matters in OTT. Now see, tech-led innovations in entertainment came in handy during the COVID-19 pandemic as numerous app developers and content platforms used their reach to disseminate important information. OTT players are experimenting with various forms of in-app interactive activities such as contests or games that can be parallelly played while watching the video content as well. To put more light on how technology is playing an important role in creating and engaging experiences for the viewers, we have experts from their respective fields with us. So I would like to invite, first of all, Mr. Alok Majumdar, who is the Vice President Technology, Hoichoi. Welcome. We have Mr. Richard Dowling, Senior Vice President of Consulting, Think Analytics. We would like to welcome Mr. Sid Mantri, Senior Vice President, Chief Product Officer, MX Player. Mr. Vineet Mehta is also with us in the conversation from Winvid. To help us in moderating over the session, we have been joined by Ms. Shanta Saikia, Editor-in-Chief, AdGully. Over to you, Shanta.
Thank you, Namita. Welcome our esteemed panelists. Good afternoon, friends. Whenever the discussion turns towards technology, most people usually brace themselves for a complex world of jargons, algorithms, analytics, and so on. Well, this panel intends to de-jargonize and demystify the role of technology in the OTT ecosystem. While the consumer is king and content the superstar, technology tends to get relegated to being a character artist working unobtrusively in the background. It is only when there is a glitch, like the 6 to 7 hour long global outage we recently saw suffered by Facebook, Instagram, and WhatsApp, that the spotlight turns to technology and what it can do to save the day. With a growing competition, the need to create differentiation, and a demanding consumer base, time has now come for OTT players to have a stronger technology game plan. And as OTT delves deeper into tier 2, tier 3, tier 4, and the smaller markets, the tech challenges will only increase. Ladies and gentlemen, it's great to have a panel of tech experts and analysts here with us today who will be able to reveal the newer aspects of technology in the OTT ecosystem. First of all, we'd like to know how exactly is technology fueling the growth for OTT. We are seeing the growing adoption of connected TVs, Fire Sticks, and then there is the upcoming 5G tech. We need to also take a look at how OTT players can benefit from cloud computing, media streaming infrastructure, hyper-personalization techniques, video compression technologies, and so on and so forth. I know that's a mouthful over there. So Sid, why don't you first, take it up first, and we would want you to dwell a bit upon how video compression technologies at MX Player is helping it take the game forward, how it has developed these technologies, and along with it, also how technology is fueling the growth for the overall OTT platforms. Over to you, Sid.
Hey, thanks, Shanta, and it's great to be here. Thanks for inviting me. So, I'm going to contextualize my response to this question to a very unique environment in India where majority of the OTT consumption still happens on a mobile device. The big television platforms, the Fire Sticks and the Chromecasts of the world, while they're picking up very aggressively. But for all practical considerations, consumption happens on mobile devices. And especially when you go into the breadth and depth of OTT consumption in a market like India, it's fascinating. The cheapest data in the world, about 500 to 600 million mobile internet connected users. Now, despite the fact that data is cheap and it's not very expensive, there is still a reasonably large number of users who effectively live on a day-to-day ration of data. Like they have a data cap, they get like 2 gigabytes per day. And these, we've done a lot of research, on these users, and they actually have a mental mapping and calculation of, I'm going to spend, 200 MB on WhatsApp, and I'm going to spend another 600 MB somewhere else. So they ration it. And so we've always focused on at MX Player, we pride ourselves on being a massy OTT platform. We're proud of the fact that we have more than 150, 160 million monthly active users consuming OTT content on the platform. And so, we want to democratize access to premium entertainment content to each and every one of these 500, 600 million users in India who have access to a mobile device, have access to data, but are parched for quality entertainment. Because India is a single television household, which means whoever has, no pun intended, control of the remote control, rest of the family is got to watch whatever that person's watching. So we spend a lot of time and effort on reducing data consumption for our users. We're really proud of the fact that we're the first and so far the only OTT in the world who's deployed H.266, which is arguably the most advanced compression standard for video encoding. And by any benchmark, by any comparison, the same content, same bitrate, same resolution, same quality, we are at least 50% of what any of our competitors can benchmark us against. So effectively, that means for the same data, our customers can consume twice the amount of content than they would otherwise on any other platform. We also have, over the last few years, invested in artificial intelligence tech that is able to determine the most important object in a frame. So for example, if this was being rendered on MX Player on OTT, our tech would automatically determine, I'm the most important person in this frame, and it would just drop the resolution in the background of the chair or the wardrobe out there. And that's why I blurred my background, because we kind of do that automatically, but not to this extent. Wherein a human eye, perceptible eye, will not really know that we're doing that. And it just cuts down even further on the data we consume. And so when it comes to data compression in a market like India, which is highly data sensitive, our ability to operate at extremely low requirements of data from both consumption point of view as well as real-time requirements point of view, it means that we're able to deliver a quality of service to customers independent of whether the data network is unstable, whether it goes up and down, bandwidth is flaky, because the requirement is so small, even a small pipe will do for us. And that has yielded rich dividends when it comes to being able to reach the breadth and depth of the country.
Right. So you spoke about the H.266 technology that you introduced. So just to give a general idea, how expensive is it to develop such kind of technology? Is it skyrocketing prices?
So we've always been at the forefront of embracing the most advanced codec standards in the world. Most of the world, or a lot of the world is still stuck on H.264, which is about 2 generations or maybe 2.5 generations behind. We were amongst the first ones to adopt H.265, which I think has seen a reasonable amount of adoption. Now it's reasonably widespread, it's commoditized. We were amongst the first ones to deploy something called as AV1, which was one step further from H.265, and then with the world's first and only platform to have H.266. I think it just goes back to the core DNA of MX Player as an organization. We're a tech organization in the business of media and entertainment. We run a casual gaming service. We run music streaming with our sister concerns, Gaana.com. We run India's biggest short format video service. And so, having a technology DNA right from the outset, and then, getting into different kinds of media with our mission is to be an all-in-one, one-stop shop entertainment super app for Indian customers. I think having that technology DNA is what gives us the edge. It is really complex. It's very complicated. It takes a sizable amount of engineering pedigree as well as effort, and that's why we've been able to always be at the cutting edge of being able to do whether it was AV1 or H.266. And also we prepare for the future, and we're willing to invest and bet on the future. As of today, H.266 does not have support for hardware decoding. The mobile devices and the chipsets out there, they're not going to be able to do this decoding in hardware, which means you end up consuming software cycles. And so we're really smart about which devices we think are capable of handling that kind of compute load. And so we target the appropriate codec to appropriate devices. So it's a very, if someone's consuming on an extremely low end device, then we'll stick to H.265 or AV1, depending on, what that device can handle. But the point is, we're maybe at best a couple of years away from, 1 to 2 years away from having prevalent hardware decoding support. And so just having that DNA where we're willing to bet on the future and be right at the forefront of investing in tech that we know over the longer term is going to pay dividends. That is how we operate, and I think you need that mindset. I think it's very difficult for media companies who are doing technology or using technology as a means of distribution. It's relatively difficult for them to do this.
Right. Richard, you work with TV and media industry players. You advise them on personalizing the viewing experience for their customers. Could you give us an idea about how technology is helping OTT players enhance consumer experience from a global perspective?
Yes, thank you. Thank you very much. Yes, so Think Analytics, who I work for, sort of comes at this from a different kind of perspective. So we're a software company primarily supplying software to OTT players, MVPs, cable, satellite, those sorts of players throughout the world. And there's over 85 different operators that use our solution globally. And we're sort of coming at it from a very different perspective. So we're sort of become heart of the viewing experience. So it's about helping viewers, help customers find content that they want. And they want and that they would enjoy. And it's about engaging the viewer in the content that they like, helping them find it. And as catalogs get bigger and bigger, it becomes more and more important. So the traditional view of this, if there is in this industry anything that's traditional, would be perhaps a single content rail, a content line that would appear across the screen, and that would be recommended for you or something like that. And if it's done well, that just by itself can be very very efficient and very good way of getting customers to find the content that they enjoy. But what we're finding is that it's growing much more than that, and particularly with OTT players. So cable companies in the past would be stuck with 1 or 2 or 3 year change cycles to change the box and the software on and all the back end infrastructure, whereas OTT players are much more nimble, much more agile, and that really plays into our hands to be able to start to customize and change the whole of the user experience. So it can go from a single line through to the entire home screen being personalized to the user's choices. And whether that's things like personal recommendations, where it's learning from what you've viewed and using that to apply the changes and come up with content that you might enjoy, or whether it's things like where it's predicting what you normally watch at this time of day, so perhaps a different view of it, or whether it's acting more of a reminder service of continue watching or don't miss the next episode, and that then carries through to identifying, like, because you watch this show, you might like these similar sorts of shows. So that's kind of where we come in to the technology thing, and it's about if you like, first of all, attracting viewers to the service. So in the first an OTT service, you might get a free trial for a day or a week or something like that. Attract people coming in, so make sure that what they see is relevant and attractive and really applies to those people. and that also it reacts very quickly in real time. So as you start watching it, or whether you tell the service what your tastes are, that immediately it's saying, oh, in that case, we didn't realize that we didn't realize you spoke Tamil. Right, here's a line of Tamil for you, or here's a line of English stuff, or Gujarati, or whatever it might be. And that's, relatively simple personalization to do. But then within those languages, and here's the particular shows that you might like within that language base, for example. So it's that kind of thing that we're trying to do, and it's engaging the viewer. And by engaging the viewer, they want to watch more because they can find more. It's just a normal human reaction of, oh, I didn't know you had that, so I'll watch it. And that then has the business consequence of they're more likely to come back and less likely to leave. So more likely to come back, very important if it's a advertising funded service, and more likely to stay if you're a subscriber based service. So that's kind of the rationale for what we do, and how our technology starts to help OTT players.
Right. Thank you, Richard. Alok, now moving on to you. As an OTT player making deep inroads into the regional markets, what has been Hoichoi's technology game plan? How has technology helped you achieve scale?
Yeah, so Hoichoi is a Bengali OTT platform, right? Now, if you see the Bengali is like one of the largest speaking language globally, right? And I think it's the fourth largest speaking language, and we have Bengali diaspora like spread it across the world. So one of the like largest Bengali OTT, right? We don't usually treat ourselves as regional, right? So because like we entertain Bengalis globally, right? So, and that like makes us more responsible, right? And it makes our job a bit challenging. And obviously the technology plays a major role, right? Because if you see the OTT distribution model, right, the content is always is the key. It always be, right? But the factor is the how we're delivering it, right? And that makes OTT different from traditional delivery methods, right? And that makes OTT more popular. Now, by design, the OTT is a technology, right? Where we're able to provide the content to the user on their probably smartphone or on a smart TV and other set-top box and everything. So we invest a lot on technology, as Sid was saying, right? Encoding, right, and the data consumption point of view, right? How we can increase the user engagement, right? Communications, how we can inform people that what's new to watch, right? And whenever they are trying to watch something on our platform or any connected devices, right? We try to put a seamless experience where user experience is always supersedes everything else, right? Because if because people have choices, right? And if they don't have a proper personalized and better user experience, that differs, force people to probably uninstall the app, right? Because in India we have seen that people are pretty bit selective about what app they will keep in their phone, right? Because they have different challenges, right? Like storage, and everything. So so as a major OTT player, we have a different segment in terms of technological plan and the roadmap. So but entirely like circles around the user experience.
Right. So when you say user experience, a large part of it also depends on how easy it is to navigate through the app, and how quickly the whatever that the consumer is looking for is easily discoverable. So how do you ensure that?
So a lot of things are like I mean there are different approaches here, right? One is like one approach is to keep it very simple, right? so that people can find whatever they want to watch, right? Bringing all the all the important shows and videos, so that they can find it very quickly. So the navigations and the user interface of the app, right, which is we usually like keep doing a lot of A/B testing, right? Try different navigation approaches, and we see that which one works better for the user, right? Usually, and again, all these are part of the like a technology, right? When we do A/B testing, track the user behavior, what exactly they are doing on the app or on our site, right? And then put it to some methodological like a analysis, so that we can decide that okay, this navigation should be there for a particular set of users, probably, or probably for a particular region, right?
Right. Okay. Thanks, Alok. Vineet, now moving on to you. Among the various offerings, WinVid also helps publishers and OTT platform owners leverage the best technology solutions. How exactly do you see this working out for your clients? And overall, how do you see technology fueling the growth for OTT platforms? Along with this, Vineet, we'd also like you to touch upon the biggest tech challenges in the OTT space today.
Yeah, thanks, Shanta, for that question, and thank you for Bijoya for getting me on this panel. So I think today more than ever before, it was always the cloud that the OTT folks focused on, but I think the focus is always and even more on the cloud today. It has made all our lives easier. Technology costs are much more manageable. It was probably 4 or 5 years ago. And go-to-market times are weeks versus months, right? So it is in many ways the golden age of technology disruption powered by the cloud. So, powered by cloud, AI, machine learning, blockchain, and a device explosion, which has led to fantastic choices available for content owners as well as consumers of content. So, with today's tech options and video cloud platform providers, content owners can launch across 10 plus devices, offering the best payment options in a matter of weeks. Spinning up or down a live channel takes minutes, no hardware maintenance or no hardware is required at all. So we've come a long way today, right? And obviously the COVID pandemic has intensified their effort towards investing in tech, in good tech. Add to all this the power of machine learning and AI. You can help reduce the video size, enhance video quality at lower bandwidths, auto subtitling, auto translation, much quicker recommendation and personalization engines. And we really have a perfect storm of all these technologies, which has coincidentally only intensified during the last 12 to 18 months. So in addition, another valuable use case for OTT tech, especially in today's world of burgeoning traffic, is for architects to build. I think Sid alluded to this when he spoke, but is for tech architects to build intelligent video delivery mechanisms whereby, basis the geography or existing traffic patterns and bandwidth availability, the systems will actually pick the appropriate CDN to deliver the video. And I think the panelists spoke earlier about CTVs or connected televisions. I think that area is growing really fast. That segment, talking to a lot of my customers who are OTT platforms themselves, that segment is a definite interest area where advertisers, content owners, as well as platforms are focusing on. And even though India remains a mobile first market, so we have this conundrum now of focusing on multiple devices. You have not only one platform, but say 7 or 8 to consider. So, those are some of the considerations that the OTT platform owners have. I think today more than ever before, as mentioned earlier, going to market quickly is one of the biggest factors that people consider, right? So you have the likes of MX Player, Hoichoi, who are much more mature, even engineering teams, but smaller outfits or smaller content houses who are considering OTT platform or OTT time to market. For them also, it becomes much easier to make that decision.
Right. Thanks, Vineet. Now, moving on to the next question. We've seen, while the conversation has been on the tremendous growth story of OTT, according to you, how can OTT be used to make this growth more sustainable? and also avoiding a subscriber churn in the long run. Along with this, how also it can be used to provide a great customer experience on the platform. Vineet, would you like to start with this?
Yeah, sure, man. Sure. I mean, we've seen today that OTT customers, for the most part, do not have any platform loyalty, right? It's about the content for the most part. So the number one consideration for OTT platforms is to avoid churn, is to keep adding fresh content relatively quickly. The frequency of updates has to be relatively fast because you are competing with a bunch of others. At last count, there were 60 plus OTT providers in India alone. So, you keep adding fresh content, which is also relevant and also meets the tastes of the user. So understanding your user and what kind of preferences they have is critical. So I think, churn is the most dreaded word for content and OTT platform owners today. However, with advancements in tech, it is possible to run AI models to predict churn for specific cohort of users and then accordingly engage them or offer them time-sensitive incentives or upgrades or offers that can minimize the churn impact. Right. So these predictive models use analytics to determine the churn threat of a viewer. Understanding where a viewer is in the churn model can help services draw them back in by way of engagement campaigns. Churn analytics are very important because they help services understand their audience more. If a viewer is going to leave the service or if the viewer is engaged with the platform. And, so understanding all those mechanisms are today available through churn analytics as well as advanced subscription management tools.
Right. Could you elaborate very briefly on these tools that you just mentioned? Very briefly.
Yeah, so, for example, Richard's company, I mean, the company that he works at, Think Analytics is one of those options. There's another partner company of ours called Evergent, which runs subscription management systems. They have payment solutions as well as churn management tools built in, where they actually keep track of user data and how the user is engaging with the content, how frequently the user is engaging with the content, what pieces of content the user is engaging with. So they build personas of the users and then accordingly send alerts if they find out that in the churn model they're about to actually exit, which is obviously great intelligence for the content owner because they get a bird's eye view of what's happening in terms of the engagement of the platform.
Right. So, Richard, I guess you would be the best person to, probably elaborate on it a bit as to how you provide this churn management intelligence to your clients, and especially from a global perspective.
Yeah, thank you, and thank you very much, Vinny, for the name check. So when we founded the company, 21 years ago, our primary focus was around AI towards churn. To build churn models and the cohort analysis and those sorts of things. And so it's something that Think Analytics has a long history of being able to work with. Around 15 years ago, we got into content discovery, search and recommendations. And although it seems like it's a different sort of problem space, it's actually addressing the same sort of issue. And for the way that we primarily approach content discovery is to personalize the service. So rather than it being just cohorts of people, which is important when you need to address large groups of people with churn analysis or advertising type analysis, when it comes to giving people a good experience, we found that actual individuals don't necessarily fit nicely into these cohorts. At least there's too much detail and too much nuance within video content for people to fit into that. So our solution builds models that are entirely personal. So the idea is that everything that you watch, we've got a strong understanding of the metadata that goes into the shows, the written descriptions of what that is. And we have teams actually largely based in Pune in India who help augment that data from the point of view and the purpose of doing search, discovery, and recommendations, which is a very different purpose than you can get really off the shelf from anywhere else. So because we have that, we're able to build models and build profiles, individual user profiles for every user on the system, based in terms of the content there. And there could be 35,000 things in 42 languages that make up these profiles and the description of the content. So when we come to it, we're actually saying, well, if we're recommending something for you, we do think it's a very good match just for you, not for people like you or people we think you look like, but based on what you've told us, what you've done, your behavior, but based on you. And so coming back to, I guess, the question is the impact that would then have on churn is, well, if people are having a good viewer experience, people go to an OTT service to watch video. You know, that's the purpose of going there. And of course, there's lots of great mechanics that we're not involved with in getting good quality video to the device, you know, at the right time and making sure the quality is good. That's absolutely, if that's not there, you know, the kind of you can forget it. But once they are there, they want to watch video that they enjoy, and they want it to be fine, to find that content quickly, and to really have it presenting them, almost to find the content to find them rather than them to find the content. And if that's happening, you come back again and again. So I don't want to take too much time, but just one recent example last week from a client in the UK, so slightly different perspective than I have. So it's a broadcaster with an OTT service that's attached to them. And they were finding their analysis is, and they use our Think Insight product to do their analysis, is that everybody comes to watch the big hitter, like soap opera type show, and they're there every day to watch it. And they watch that one show on the OTT service, and then they're gone. And so the challenge there was, okay, how do we hook them? As soon as they've watched it, they finished watching what they came for, then what's next? And so to start to personalize it, either with similar shows, what others are doing, what's trending, what's personally recommended for them once we're getting a profile for them. That was very much the challenge, to hook them in. And it's an advertising funded service. So the longer you watch, the more adverts are played to you, the better targeted those adverts are, then of course the better the viewer experience. And so it's really moved from, it's still early days, but we're moving from a single piece of content per day to, I think we're at 3 pieces of content per day at the moment. And that's in a short period of time. And we expect that to grow and grow as people then, it becomes habitual to use this OTT service rather than going around to use one of the, in the UK, as in India, there are many to choose from. And habitual to come back to this one because this is where the good and interesting content is. And some of the stuff is made yesterday, some of the stuff is made years ago and way back in the archive. And it drags something up and you think, wow, I never thought you'd have that. I thought I needed to go to Netflix or Amazon Prime to watch that sort of content. So that's really how we start to do that. And it's then, of course, using techniques like A/B testing to make sure that the rails that you're producing are the good ones, the accurate ones. And it's not based on a hunch, it's based on data. And to actually use that to kind of reinforce the decisions. But yeah, so that's kind of our approach is to personalize the UI, make the customer happy because of that. They become engaged, they come back. They keep engaging with the service, they're happy to keep coming back with it.
Right, that's interesting, with the content searching the user rather than the user having to,
Indeed.
Search around for the content. Alok, as you grow across, this burgeoning, especially Bengali diaspora across the world. So how is your platform taking steps to avoid the subscriber churn, and how you are going about, providing an even greater user experience to your customer base?
Right. So usually, there's 2 things, right? One is, to counter this whole churn cycle, right? The one is, the driving content discovery, at a personalization level, right? And target a right user, at the right time with the right content, right? So that's the 2, principles that we follow, right? So, we usually, track user behaviors, right? Their preference genre, what they exactly do on our platform across devices. Right, and then we try to push the current the relevant content, right? As Richard was saying that there are a segment of users who usually watch a certain type of content and then they leave the platform, right? And they wait for the next set of the content, right? So usually target those user, right, and with the right content, so that and it's very important to to have a right segmentation of those users, right, so that we can communicate with them in real time, right, sending push notifications or other communication channels like sending SMSs and all, email and email newsletters and everything. So one part is obviously having a right, having a pool of content, right, a continuous infusion of fresh content, so that they don't feel that the content part is stagnated, right, and and for Hoichi is very important because we are original content creator, right, so we don't aggregate content, right, so it's everything on which is originals made by us, right, and so that's why it's always we have advantage as well, because we exactly know that what kind of content needs to be made, right, to keep those users remain in the platform. And obviously then the second part is right segmentation of the users, with knowing exactly what they're doing, what is their exact behavior, and then help of us a certain part of this process obviously is done by machine learning and all, so that you can push those relevant content and communication to them, so that they usually get hooked to the platform.
Right. Sid, subscriber churn is not an issue for MX Player. It's been on a very steep growth trajectory. So what steps is MX Player taking to sustain this growth? How do you hold on to this growth and ensure that you don't reach a plateau anytime soon?
Yeah, it's a great question, and it's a question that we evolve our solutions and answers to every day. It's a question we discuss and deliberate every day. So I would say, first of all, like you rightly said, we're primarily an AVOD platform as of today. So it's advertising-led video on demand. And so we think of our customers as subscribers nevertheless. It's just that they don't pay us cash directly. Although I must say that about I want to say about 5 or 6 weeks back, we launched our first SVOD product on MX Player, and it's shown tremendous promise. So we also have to start grappling with the subscriber retention from a direct paying users point of view. So I think number one is like my co-panelists have rightly pointed out, that the trick really is to change the mental model of our customers, wherein they don't think of OTT or they don't think of MX Player as I want to watch Ashram and hence I'm going to launch MX Player. I'm going to watch that content. Now I want to watch Bigg Boss. As much as I think that's great success on part of our marketing, that we have high intention customers who are coming in with a very targeted content. But the trick is to convert that high intent and become an all-pervasive go-to destination for entertainment. And so when I have time to kill and I want to get entertained, how does MX Player become what I call as input zero? And traditionally over the years, input zero has always been linear broadcast television, and the exercise that users go through is flipping television channels. And so the moral equivalent of that now is, how do we occupy mind share where we build confidence with the customer that anytime they launch the app, there will be something interesting that is highly targeted, highly customized for that particular user. And we build that confidence that the user is assured to the point where the mental model shifts and basically becomes, hey, I want to get entertained, so I'm just going to launch MX Player because I know like amongst the first 2 or 3 things it recommends, I am bound to like that content and I'm bound to watch it. And so, that holds true whether it is a paid subscription, direct paid subscription, or an advertising or an AVOD model. Occupying that customer mindshare and becoming input zero in their heads is the key. The rest of the analytics and then finding your high intention profile, a customer running a device which costs more than X rupees, lives in an X, metro city, has a particular demographic, age, gender, etc. Like, look, all of those are relatively simpler problems to solve, and they maximize the probability of transaction. But at the end of the day, what really matters is becoming input zero from a mental model point of view.
Right. Interesting. Now, coming on to real-time engagement, we see this mostly in areas of sports broadcasting. For instance, the live streaming of IPL matches on Disney Hotstar, which have been increasingly drawing eyeballs over the years. And we recently saw Bigg Boss OTT on Voot and MX Player, and which provided live 24/7 coverage. So do you think real-time engagement can be a feasible and profitable proposition on OTT? What will it take to really make this possible? Will it require a huge investment in technology? How will this entire ecosystem pan out? Alok, would you like to start on this?
Yeah, so this is interesting. So, I mean, this, real-time engagement, and the way we want to, put it, right? It was always there, like as a fan management engagement, in sports, right? We used to say, in television, we used to say like audience participations, right? So, so obviously, the digital delivery of digital platform gives us, more flexibility and liberty to, use these methodologies, right, to engage people. But obviously, as you rightly said, that is more relevant to, live events and sports, right? But for a, typical VOD, OTT kind of environment, right? I think it's too early to, advise, something to, get, most out of it, right? Obviously, there are possibilities where, we can, engage users to have some kind of a real-time, like a gamification kind of a thing, or a real-time feedback, right? But obviously, I think it's more relevant to the particular content, right? I mean, whether sports and real-time shows are there already, it might be as say we are premiering something, right? Exclusive content, right? As a premiere event, or a film is getting premiered digitally. Probably in that kind of a event, maybe get benefited out of this, or something can be done around that. But in a regular, kind of a VOD kind of a, consumption kind of a thing, I think it's a bit too early, and probably the current scope is very limited.
Right. Live, interactive, immersive. That is what Gaurav Rakshit mentioned in his keynote address earlier in the day. So, Sid, do you think OTT content can be made live, interactive, immersive? Will we see OTT players innovating and experimenting with it in the times to come?
Yeah, Shanta, I think this is one of my pet topics, because we've actually already kind of walked that talk. Probably the only OTT platform in India who has done 2 short films that are interactive. They don't have to be live. I think interaction and live are completely mutually exclusive, and it just goes back to OTT has democratized freedom to choose. When can I watch? Because I'm not like bound to a particular schedule. It has made content become personalized, because the content I watch is different from the content my wife watches, and we have different profiles on the OTT apps we use, and our tastes are different, our recommendations are different. But funnily enough, despite of all of that progress, despite of all the machine learning and artificial intelligence tech we have, the story is still linear. When I watch Ashram, and when you watch Ashram, and when Vineet watches Ashram, and when Alok watches Ashram, we're not watching the exact same story, but we're completely different people. And I think the holy grail when it comes to interactivity, if you leave aside the live sports, because there's a lot you can do over there, because there's a community, there is social element, there is fantasy sports, but just with core OTT video streaming content, the technology has made it possible for us to customize and personalize even stories. And storytelling doesn't have to be the same, because Alok is likely going to, want or is going to be thrilled with a completely different fork or climax than I will, because we're completely different human beings. And I think we're still only scratching the surface of being able to real time customize and make content interactive, as well as make these stories become non-linear and adapt to each user's taste and preferences. And so, like I said, we've done 2 interactive videos. They've won lots of awards. We're so proud of that. And I think we'll start seeing more and more of that, especially from OTT services that are really at the bleeding cutting edge of trying to reinvent the art of storytelling, which has more or less remained the same. The format and the distribution has changed.
Right. Vineet, what is your take on it? I mean, any solutions or technology solutions that you think is possible to achieve this?
Yeah, I concur with Sid, right? I mean, the tech part is relatively easier to solve once you have the right idea and strategy in mind. And that obviously depends on the kind of content. So the genre of content is important. As Sid rightly mentioned, from a live sports point of view, I mean, we worked in my earlier role at Brightco, we worked very closely with FanCode and Dream 11. I mean, there's a lot of things you can do with live sports in terms of, real-time scorecards, community live chats, commerce options. For example, the jersey of the player who just scored a dunk or hit a six can pop up at that same time as that shot happens, right? So those kind of things are in the realm of possibility today. So, these things are definitely going to come to this part of the world sooner rather than later in terms of live content. In terms of VOD, as the panelists mentioned, Alok and Sid, that basically in terms of VOD, you had the Netflix Bandersnatch kind of experiences that people are trying to experiment with. Netflix still has shows. I was watching a show the other day on a kids show on animals where the kids could select the storyline. So they're trying to target younger and younger audiences to have the innovation also in place. So the tech is definitely there. We are personally aware of such tech companies who are also, offering this as a product where no development is required, and these are plug and play platforms that are there to be had if the need arises. So the answer is yes. I mean, the other thing to add is that, there was a whole conversation that people had about second screen engagement for live events, and so for example, you have KBC or Big Boss. Big Boss is doing it with Voot and MX. But, I mean, second screen engagement has been tried, used successfully in terms of, but one thing to add is you do need for second screen, you do need a strong social media community during live events or breaking news. So it all depends on how the content genre plays out. And also from a UX point of view, how intrusive it is or not, right? So it has to be thought out very carefully in terms of the user experience.
That's important to note here. Richard, globally, what are your observations on OTT platforms adopting real-time engagement with their content strategy? What are the challenges and opportunities that you see here?
Yeah, I've probably got a slightly different take on this to perhaps the other panelists. In that, in terms of content discovery, often these flagship events, whether it's a soap opera or a popular drama, or to use my favorite example that I talk about in any particular context, a cricket match, those things people know about already. They know when they're going to be on. They often know where to find them, and they will watch them regardless of what a content discovery platform says. They might use the search just to identify the channel or something like that, but that's it for those things. You don't need to recommend the fact that there's a test match against England India coming up next year now, but anyway, the last ones. Right. But where the issue comes is, what do you do at the end of the game? So whether it's a cricket match, football match, a big event that lots of people have tuned into, maybe simultaneously to do that. Okay, now that's finished or it's coming to the end. What do people do? Oh, we just switch off now, go and do something else. Well, hang on, you've missed a massive opportunity. That's the time to grab the customers and get them into something else? And is it things that are related directly to the sport that they're watching? If that's the case, maybe so. Or is it, well, you're on the platform, we know a little bit about you, why don't you go off and watch these sorts of things, go down this sort of avenue of content consumption, because that might be the only time those people are actually there. That the only reason they're looking at that particular provider is in order to watch the game. So that's the kind of opportunity, and for us, it becomes key, and to be able to do that, some of the panelists have already touched on this. The scale that the cloud gives us, particularly AWS, is really, really important. Our system is real time and always has been. And one of the best countries in the world for this has been India, in that when you're talking real time and scale, you're talking real time and scale. You're not talking a few million people, you're talking tens of millions of people. And that's really fabulous, because that's something our technology really works with. And the auto scaling and AI-based anticipation of scaling that we're able to use with AWS really helps us apply our technology to that, so that there is always the option. People do then have the option, what do you do next? Because the recommendations are suggesting that, and it's able to keep up with the real-time aspects of it.
Right.
Shanta ma'am, I'm sorry, but we are running late, so can we consider that as the last question?
Yeah. So, I guess, we have a lot of actually interesting more discussions lined up. Unfortunately, we have run short of time. So Richard, Alok, Sid, Vineet, thank you so much for your insights. We'll definitely carry on this conversation forward, maybe in form of some stories or feature reports, or in another forum. But thank you. That's a lot of information and insight over there that we can mull over in the coming days. And there's a lot to look forward to. Thank you so much. Thank you so much for your time, gentlemen.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you, everybody.
Namita?
And my sincere thanks to Mr. Alok, Mr. Sid, Mr. Vineet, and Mr. Richard for your enriching talk and wonderful conversation with Ms. Shanta. Shanta ma'am, thank you so much for moderating the session so wonderfully. Thank you.